I'd like to take a moment to show you modifiers in Blender 3D. A modifier is pretty much like an effect in your photo editor. So it takes your entire 3D model and changes it for you, and in the case of modifiers it does so live. So even if you edit your model, the changes made by the modifier are applied whilst you edit it. And I'll show you with blue here on the left. This is a little model that I use a lot for 3D printing. And if we go on the right, there is the properties panel, and in the properties panel look for the little wrench symbol. The wrench is for modifiers, it changes things. So in the case of blue, there is one modifier already there. It is a subsurf or subdivision surface modifier that adds extra detail. Let's remove it by clicking on the little X, and you see what blue is made of. It is just a couple of points. Blue is very, very simple. Now, the nice thing about having such a simple model is that he is very easy to change. I can just take a point and move it, and it doesn't take too much to change the entire shape of this model. But for 3D printing and as an end result, I'd like something a lot more detailed and a lot more smooth. We can make him more smooth by adding a subdivision surface modifier. I'll click on it to add it back in. And you can see there are a couple of settings. In this case, I want to change the view layer to 2 to make him even more smooth. I can make it 3, but be very careful. Look at the top of how many verts we have. In edit mode, I can see the original. We have 702 points that blue is made of. But with the subsurf modifier at level 1, it's already 2814. If I go to 2, it's 11,250, which is still quite okay for Blender. But if I go to level 3, it already becomes 44,000. This multiplies. So don't make the level of subdivision surfaces too high, because it will make your computer very, very slow. Be careful, because I too have a tendency to do that. Some of the other buttons for all modifiers, we'll have a quick look at them. Here at the top is a little camera symbol. If I click it to depress it like this, it means you can render an image without this modifier. Now it's enabled for rendering. This is enabling or disabling it for the view entirely, so it doesn't matter if you're in edit mode or object mode or anything, it's just disabled now. If I enable it like this and disable this one, it is enabled in object mode and disabled in edit mode. So in edit mode we don't see the change. I can enable it in edit mode, so it shows us what it looks like. See, I can still change it with the simple points. It shows us the result in there. I can even enable this one, applying it to the editing cage. So the cage, which is basically the simple version, gets deformed to lie on top of the end result. It doesn't actually change the points, but it's very nice to see what the end result looks like. Now a little trick about modifiers: you want to apply them before you export for a 3D print. And usually if you export, I will show you if I try exporting to VRML for instance, it already has a checkbox that says apply modifiers, and this is usually checked, which is great. The thing is, even though the modifier is applied, the end result after the modifier is applied, of course, isn't checked for printability. So if I were you, my advice is first apply all your modifiers, then make sure your model is printable, and then export for 3D printing. One of the coolest things about modifiers is that you can have multiple modifiers on a single object. So let's look at a case where you might want a second modifier on blue. For instance, if we were to give him an eyeball. So let's make a sphere, and we put the sphere in the middle of his face. Here we go, he's got a huge big cyclops eye. Now if I want to take this model like this and export him for a 3D print, it will probably work. I can select them both, go into export, and have the selection exported. So it will export both objects. In this case I'm exporting to VRML. But there is a little bit of an issue with it. There is actually 2 or 3 issues. One is that even though I've got these two and it will print, it will also print the part of the model that is inside the other model. So it will look at this part of the sphere as if it is a wall. So if I print on an extrusion type printer right now, it will actually print a wall there as if it's on the outside. And that can make your model structurally less sound. That's a downside. It might take more material as well. It will take longer to calculate, and it can cause trouble for the printer to figure out what is inside and what is outside. Another really good reason why you wouldn't want to send it off like this is that we cannot check it for printability. If we send this out, I can check blue for printability. I can check the sphere with our new Blender 3D print tools and mesh analysis, which is really, really nice. But there's no way to say whether the combination of the two is printable. To do that, we have to merge them into one. And to merge two objects into one, we have a very, very useful Boolean modifier, which I will add. First thing I want to know is the name of the eyeball. So I select it and look at the left bottom and see it's called sphere. Then I'll select blue and I'll make the subsurf one layer less, because otherwise it takes a little bit longer to calculate. And I will add a Boolean modifier. And the target for the Boolean is the sphere. You can click and click on the name. If you have a lot of objects in your scene, you can type the name as well, sphere, and it will find it for you. The result may look a little bit strange, but this is the default for an intersection. I will hide the sphere by clicking on H, so it's still there, it's just hidden from view, and we have the end result here. The intersection means you get the bit of the model where both of the models are. What you use a lot more often would be the union, for instance. So in this case, the end result is a nice mono hull outside surface of the model. This is a really nice result. You can see exactly how it's done it. And this we can check with the 3D print tools if we apply the modifiers. So in this case, let's do that. Applying is really simple and clean. There is an apply button and we have to apply both. By the way, before I apply, I'll show you there's 2 little arrows on the right. You can change the order of the modifier. So if I put the Boolean in first, you see the result is very, very different because it does the Boolean before the subsurf. So it merges these two, the low poly, the very undetailed blue, merges it with the sphere and then makes both of them smooth. So our sphere becomes a lot smoother too. But the end result isn't so nice. So the order really, really matters. And if I want to check them for 3D printableness, it's not how you say it, is it? Doesn't matter. I apply them, always apply the top one first, apply this one, apply that one, and in edit mode you see the end result. So this is what it looks like, and we can go check it with the 3D print tools. I want to show you 2 more modifiers really quickly because they're fun, and one that is really, really useful. The one to start with is this one, decimate. Decimate is basically the reverse of the subdivision surface, so it makes your model more simple. The reason you might want to use it is if you use a 3D scanned object. 3D scanned objects have lots and lots of points, sometimes millions of points, which make your computer very, very slow and a lot of the time give you detail that you don't really need. You can add a decimate modifier and then give it a ratio. 1 means it doesn't take anything away. I will make it do a lot. I'll put it on 0.2 and you can see it's removed a lot of points from blue. We can make it even 0.1, make it remove even more so he becomes less and less detailed. Very, very useful for a 3D scanned object that has way too many points. The result isn't always clean, but it pretty much always makes the model more usable and more editable. Another one that we can add is a deform modifier. A deform modifier doesn't add or remove any points. It just changes their position, thus changing the shape of your 3D model. Let's have a look at, for instance, a cast modifier, and you can see instantly it changes the shape of blue a lot. And we can change how much it does so, make it do it less or more, and we can even change the shape of the sphere it's looking at. See, 0.5. Ooh, is that? No. You see, has to be more and more, make it bigger and bigger, and it's casting it to the sphere. I don't use this much, but it's a lot of fun to play with the deform modifiers. Have a look at this list. The generate modifiers change how much points. The deform modifiers just change where they go. All the way on the left, these I have personally never used. These on the right are more about simulation, so you can make cloth and hair and that sort of thing. That is all stuff that you don't use too often for 3D printing.